healthy living for today's show, A Cure for Diabetes Through Veganism, in depth with Drs. Neal Barnard and Gabriel Cousens. Diabetes is one of the most prevalent health challenges of our time. It has evolved to pandemic proportions, growing most rapidly in developing economies such as India and China, and among poor and minority groups in developed nations. In this two-part series, we will explore the diets employed by two medical doctors, Neal Barnard, MD, and Gabriel Cousens, MD, whose patients have successfully controlled, reversed, and cured diabetes by following their advice. Dr. Neal Barnard is a physician and clinical researcher who recently completed a study on the effects of the vegan diet, which is an animal-free diet, on controlling and reversing type 2 diabetes. The study, which is documented in his book, Dr. Neal Barnard's Program for Reversing Diabetes, was funded by the U.S. National Institute of Health and conducted by George Washington University and the University of Toronto in Canada. Dr. Barnard is also the director of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Our research shows several benefits of a vegan diet for people with diabetes. Number one, you lose weight. And you lose about a pound per week, and add that up. 52 weeks per year, you're talking serious weight loss. Cholesterol levels fall, and blood sugars fall. The need for medication drops. Many people get off their medications completely, and blood pressure comes down as well. So that sack of pills you've been taking for your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your diabetes, a lot of those you'll probably be able to throw away.
Dr. Gabriel Cousens is a medical doctor, a diplomat for the American Board of Holistic Medicine, and founder of the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center in Patagonia, Arizona. Dr. Cousens is an expert in the holistic application of raw vegan nutrition, supplements, and lifestyle changes to cure diabetes, overcome addictions, and many other health challenges. He has been working with diabetics in his private practice and has detailed his findings in his recently released book, There is a Cure for Diabetes. Dr. Cousens had invited 6 diabetics eating the standard American diet to the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center to demonstrate the rejuvenating power of curing diabetes with a raw vegan diet. His patient's journey was documented in a newly released movie titled Simply Raw, Reversing Diabetes in 30 Days.
Well, we have a 21-day program. In 1 to 4 days, really 1 day, practically, we get people off all their insulin and all their other diabetic medications. And in 2 to 3 weeks, even if their blood sugar starts at 500 or 400, we're returning their blood sugars to normal, which is less than 100.
Both doctors have independently proven that the vegan diet is effective in treating diabetes. Their approaches, while both using plant-based vegan diets, are at different ends of the spectrum. One mostly cooked, and the other 80% raw, and yet their results are profound. Before we go further into the details of this healthy diet, let's learn more about diabetes.
Diabetes is a condition, as I guess people know, where there's too much sugar in the blood. And the sugar is glucose, and it's there normally to go into the cells to provide energy. So that if I'm going to run a marathon, all my muscle cells are using that glucose for energy. The problem is in diabetes is the glucose can't get into the cells. It stays in the blood. And in the blood it can be toxic. It can hurt the eyes, the tiny little blood vessels of the eyes or the kidneys or other parts of the body. Type 1 diabetes, we hear people talk about that. That used to be called childhood onset. And in that condition, the pancreas, which normally makes the insulin that brings the sugar into the cell, the pancreas is no longer making insulin. So the sugar can't get into the cell. Type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset. There's still insulin there, but the cells resist its action. So it's like having a key, which is the insulin, going to a lock on the cell, and the key can't open the lock. So the sugar builds up.
The research shows in every indigenous culture, when white flour and white sugar are introduced, there's an outbreak of diabetes 20 years later.
We have the evidence from comparisons of different countries. We've known for a long period of time when a person goes from a vegetarian type of culture, a plant-based kind of culture, to a meaty culture, diabetes rates go way, way up.
It comes directly as a symptom of the culture of death, because diabetes is a direct reflection of living in the culture of death, which is the white flour, white sugar, cooked animal flesh, fat, saturated fat, pesticides and herbicides, the effect of mineral depletion on the soil, so our insulin doesn't have enough minerals to go in, pesticides and herbicides we mentioned, but heavy metals. All these play a role.
When Healthy Living returns, we'll delve deeper into the details of the vegan diet in treating type 2 diabetes. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. We'll be right back after these brief messages.
Welcome back to Healthy Living on Supreme Master Television.
On today's Healthy Living, we are highlighting how a vegan, meaning animal-free diet, can help treat type 2 diabetes. Let's now hear from Dr. Neal Barnard on what is a major cause of diabetes.
It's important for us to understand the cause of diabetes. If I had a patient who had diabetes and I pulled out one muscle cell from their leg or their arm and I looked at it, blew it up big and with a microscope, we see the cause of diabetes. Keep in mind what this glucose that's built up in the blood is there for. It's supposed to power our cells. It's supposed to keep our muscle cells moving. Well, if the insulin key arrives at the surface of the cell and it can't open the channels to let glucose in, why not? Well, if I look at this big muscle cell, I see that it looks different from a muscle cell from somebody who doesn't have diabetes. It looks different because it's full of little fat droplets. And imagine if I have a perfectly good key for my front door. And I go away, and I come back, and my key no longer opens the door.
Because it's full of fat globules?
Well, somebody put gum in my lock. It doesn't work very well. So if I have fat in my cells, it's not gum, but it could be fat from cheese, fat from meat, fat from eggs, or fat from a fryer grease or something like that. So to make it short and sweet, the cause of type 2 diabetes is when fat builds up in the cells, then insulin can no longer signal that cell to accept glucose. The answer to it is to get that fat out of the cell. How do I do it? Well, where does the fat come from? The fat comes from meat. It comes from cheese and other dairy products. Cheese is the worst, about 70% fat. Also eggs and cooking grease.
To demonstrate how powerful animal fat is in its ability to create diabetes, Dr. Barnard and his colleagues ran an experiment funded by the U.S. National Institutes of Health.
We made it rather simple, and that's an advantage of the vegan diet because the typical diabetes diet says you've got to count carbohydrate grams. They use exchange lists of foods, and it is a little bit complicated, and some people find it quite tedious. The vegan diet, we actually had 3 rules. One is no animal products. That's pretty simple. Keep oils really low. And the third was avoid sugars and things like white bread. but don't avoid healthy carbohydrates. So they could eat rice, and they could eat pasta, and they could eat sweet potatoes and yams and beans and, to their heart's content. Those were the only rules. The first result was that the patients really liked it. These people were not vegans coming into it. They were eating all kinds of things, but they came into the study, and something has changed in the world now. We had a control group following the American Diabetes Association diet. They did pretty well. They lost some weight, and their blood sugars came down. But the vegans lost significantly more weight. Their blood sugar control improved dramatically, and their cholesterol levels fell, and other things improved as well. So it's clearly the preferable diet. Let me give you an example. There was a man who came into our study named Vance. Vance's father was dead by age 30.
Wow.
Vance was 31 when he was diagnosed with diabetes. He had been a Washington, D.C. policeman for 12 years. He said, you know, I know I'm overweight, not paying too much attention to my diet, eating a lot of barbecue, chicken, and so forth. We said, okay, those days are gone, Vance. Now it's time for you to follow a healthy diet. And we made it simple for him. So if you're eating bacon and eggs for breakfast, well, that's not vegetarian food. So throw that out and make a big bowl of oatmeal. Top it with cinnamon and raisins or whatever. You can have as much of it as you want. Or if you're more a fruit person, have a half a cantaloupe or some rye toast, no butter, or whatever. Those are good breakfast choices. For lunch, Vance liked chili, so he had a veggie chili. There's lots of vegetable chilies. Or a bean burrito or something like that. For dinner, if you went Italian, instead of the spaghetti with a meat sauce, he had spaghetti with a tomato sauce. So it seemed to him like the easiest diet in the world because he didn't have to limit how much he ate. Well, as time went on, he lost weight, he lost weight, he lost weight. After a year, he had lost 60 pounds.
Wow.
His blood sugar, which had been out of control, came down so much his doctor sat him down and said, Vance, you've been on this diet. You don't have diabetes anymore. His doctor took him off his medicine.
So basically, to sum it up, the benefits of a vegan diet for diabetes.
Okay, number one, very gradually, very gently, your blood sugar starts coming down. Your weight comes down as well. Blood cholesterol comes down as well, very impressively. Similarly to what a cholesterol-lowering drug will do, we can do that with a vegan diet. And blood pressure comes down as well. Those are the big things. The little things, your digestion is better. So a person who's had chronic constipation, that's usually fixed in about 24 to 48 hours. It's that quick. If a person has arthritis, not everybody gets better, but many do. If people have migraines, that's better as well.
Please join us next Monday for Part 2, Care on Healthy Living, when we further explore the studies on treating diabetes with a vegan diet conducted by Drs. Neal Barnard and Gabriel Cousens. Science and Spirituality is coming up next, right after Noteworthy News, so please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. May your life flourish in well-being and vitality. Responsible medicine. Dr. Gabriel Cousens is a medical doctor, a diplomat for the American Board of Holistic Medicine, and founder of the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center in Patagonia, Arizona. Dr. Cousens is an expert in the holistic application of raw vegan nutrition, supplements, and lifestyle changes to cure diabetes, overcome addictions, and many other health challenges. He has been working with diabetics in his private practice and has detailed his findings in his recently released book, There is a Cure for Diabetes. Dr. Cousens had invited 6 diabetics eating the standard American diet to the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center to demonstrate the rejuvenating power of curing diabetes with a raw vegan diet. His patient's journey was documented in a newly released movie titled Simply Raw, Reversing Diabetes in 30 Days. Dr. Cousens' experience is that the top 3 factors leading to diabetes are foods which convert to sugar, animal fats, and toxins, followed by several other factors which cause insulin resistance, such as smoking, caffeine, and white flour.
High sugar has never worked. Dr. Cleve, who was the head of the British Medical Services in World War II, did this research. He studied all the different subcultures around the world, indigenous cultures, whatever, and they came up with what's known as the 20-year rule. 20-year rule means 20 years after you introduce white flour, white sugar into you get the outbreak of diabetes. That's it. So sugar plays the biggest role. And fructose is the worst. Cooked animal and meat and dairy are the second category. And what happens, there's lots of problems here. Basically, a high cooked fat blocks the function of insulin. That's the basic bottom line. People who are diabetic also have some kind of genetic tendency that they have more fat in their cells, and it creates a backup of the system. So it creates insulin resistance. That's what we're talking about. So animal products do this problem. Dairy does it. All these things cause inflammation. And that's one of the keys. Diabetes is the inflammation of the whole system, and particularly the beta cells of the pancreas. And live food diet, as you'll see the result, creates a specific anti-inflammation effect.
Other researchers have tested diets that are sort of semi-vegetarian. And so we thought, all right, let's do a real study. Let's bring people in and get all the junk out of their diet. Remove the meat and the dairy products and the eggs. And keep the oils low, too, so that people aren't eating a lot of fried foods. And that was what we wanted to test. We did some preliminary tests that were very favorable. So in 2003, the National Institutes of Health of the federal government supported our work to do a careful test of a vegan diet for type 2 diabetes. And the results were wonderful.
So just by eliminating the meat, by eliminating all animal products,
Right.
meat and dairy, by reducing all the sugars and keeping oils low, just by doing those three things, without doing any other exotic optimizing the diet, these people had lower...
Their blood sugar fell, their cholesterol fell,
Right.
They lost weight, and their blood pressure gets better as well.
Eliminating the toxins from our bodies is also a very important part of regaining and maintaining one's health.
Pesticides, herbicides, and your heavy metals all have their effect. Mercury poisons the beta cells of the pancreas and deactivates insulin. Fluorine causes insulin resistance. Cadmium affects the kidneys and causes insulin resistance. Lead causes insulin resistance. So arsenic creates hormonal disruptions, which also causes insulin resistance. Caffeine increases insulin resistance by 30%. Cigarettes increase insulin resistance by 20 to 30%, whether you're a lighter smoker or a heavier smoker. Low fiber diet, because high fiber diets slow down the glucose going into the system. Stress reduction. Wheat, there is a substance in white flour called alloxin, that many people have never heard of it. And alloxin is a specific poison to the beta cells of the pancreas. Specific. It destroys the beta cells of the pancreas. So we really don't recommend anything with white flour. Wheat itself tends to increase insulin resistance. In the Ayurvedic system, it's called copogenic. It tends to create diabetes. What we learned from the live foods, and we learned from what we call juice fasting, is you can turn off the diabetic switch and activate people into a healthy lifestyle, a healthy on anti-aging genes.
Please stay tuned to Healthy Living here on Supreme Master Television. We'll be back with more from Drs. Barnard and Cousens on how a vegan diet can contribute to our overall well-being. Today on Healthy Living, Drs. Neal Barnard and Gabriel Cousens explains how people who have switched to a vegan, meaning animal-free diet, have recovered from type 2 diabetes. Adopting a plant-based diet brings along with it many other health benefits as well.
I actually wrote a book about 10 years ago called Foods That Fight Pain, where I talk about painful conditions like migraine headaches or arthritis or menstrual cramps. For not everybody, but for many people, when they get away from dairy products, their arthritis improves or it goes away. Same with migraine headaches.
We actually, which is surprising to Gabriel here, is we have healed type 1 as well. We had one person that actually was this type 1 and got into our program by accident for a movie we're doing with it. He got the onset in his teens with a blood sugar of 1,200.
Wow.
That's really high. Yeah, it should be 85. Okay, in 4 days he's off all insulin.
Wow.
2 weeks his blood sugar is running 73 to about 85, varying. He's healed.
Raw for 30. 73, February 14th, without insulin. And you telling me what program works? What program works? This works. This works.
We do specific training on the optimum diet. And what's the optimum diet? It's your organic, vegan, 80% live food. And this particularly, we do a lot of indigenous diet things like tepary beans and that kind of thing, and some grains, because they're actually been shown being quite good for diabetes. Okay.
The mainstream medical community considers a person to be free of diabetes when their blood sugar is below 125. However, Dr. Cousens finds that when the blood sugar is below 85, it helps to stimulate the body's organs to heal. One goal of his program is to keep the blood sugar at these low levels for a certain number of months after the initial 21 days to give the organs a chance to rejuvenate.
Okay, most people are coming in with 300s, 400s, things like that. And so we drop it very rapidly, but then we want to see it stabilize. We want to see the pancreas heal. We want to see the adrenals heal, the thyroid heal. And these are things that we're talking about that are really important. The hypothalamus, these are things that have all been disordered by a way of life. We want to see people that they're exercising, because exercise is very, very important. Losing weight is very important. Those are two associated factors with the onset of type 2.
Now, one of the gentlemen who came to your program, he was about to have his foot amputated, and you mentioned that certain portions of his body were starting to lose sensitivity.
This is scar tissue from the burn, and I forgot all about my foot and the heater.
If he weren't to reverse it, he would be going towards amputation.
They should have cut your foot off. Good thing they didn't, because look at it now.
How has he fared?
He, within 3 weeks, his foot was all healed up. He could, his neuropathy, which is what we're talking about, went away. His skin condition improved. His mental state improved dramatically. We need to understand a new piece of information, which is Alzheimer's associated with diabetes.
Oh.
And so he was like in that confused mental state, and that also cleared up. He was in his late 40s and way overweight, and the classical diabetic, obese, and eating sugar, and mentally not clear, and suffering pain in legs, about ready to be amputated. That's what we start to see is the classical kind of symptoms that begin to happen, complications. And so it's not fun to live that way.
I've been the man with a lantern looking for the truth, and my God, found it.
There's one regret that sometimes people have. They regret that they didn't do this about 20 years earlier.
Right.
Because to be in a body that feels healthy, it's the best possible thing. Not only to be healthy for yourself, but for your family. To be a good example for them.
Thank you for your company today on Healthy Living. Our show airs every Monday on Supreme Master Television. Please stay tuned for Science and Spirituality right after noteworthy news. Wishing you good health and great happiness.